Welcome back to Co-op Radio 102.7 FM, CFRO. This is Monday Brown Bagger. My name is Reginald Angus Argue. We just had a caller call in, and he told us a little bit about where a dime is being produced. It's being produced as a dime bomb, which causes cancer. Apparently, it's being produced by Boeing Aircraft, which is out of Seattle, but they're producing it over in St. Louis, Missouri. And we'll be doing some more research on that, and hopefully we can find a guest who can give us a greater detail on where that comes from. Also, Kevin Annette quickly wants to cut in and just quickly say a little bit about that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I don't know if people know, but in the Canadian pension plan, the government invests hundreds of millions of dollars every year of your pension money in defense industry. And there's been a lot of research done on this. But know that when you're in a job and the pension is taken off or you contribute to the pension plan, a lot of that money is going into, they reinvest it into very large, mostly into defense contractors like General Electric, General Dynamics, probably Boeing as well. So it shows you how even in the pension system here, people are inadvertently supporting this, the war industries.
So what the listening audience may want to do is when you start looking at where your investments are going in mutual funds and other investment RSPs, just start asking your the stock market brokers, just start asking, okay, which companies it's going into, start doing research on what the companies are producing. If you don't want any part of what's going on over in Israel, Gaza, if you don't want any part of what's going on over in Iraq or soon to be Iran, because of the way that they're beating on the drums, and even Afghanistan, now is your time to basically stand up and take a stand and say, well, I don't want to be invested in that company. With that said, we're going to go over to our second guest, Gemineye, an outspoken hip-hop artist from Vancouver. The first question I want to ask you, Gemineye, is about the Princess Diana. I wrote an article which is called Loss of the English Rose, and as a couple of years ago I wrote this article, and it talked about how the Princess Diana was heavily involved in the banning of landmines. Canada was one nation that signed a treaty, and I think there's about 147 or 151 nations that signed the exact same treaty which banned the production of landmines. The United States was one nation that did not sign it, citing it basically was going to cut into their money and stuff like that. But with that said, so that's one way that the reason why Diana was killed, I looked into the possibility because it was involved with landmine production and everything. So that would basically tie in the possibility that the CIA had something to do with her death. And also with that said, apparently it's said in there that any nation that signs this treaty that now works in coordination with another nation in a basically a theater of war with another nation, if the other nation uses landmines, and if a nation like Canada were to get involved with, let's say, United States, and the United States was using landmines, Canada would actually be violating that same treaty. So the question, some listeners might want to start asking, going, is United States using landmines possibly over in Afghanistan, or Canada actually has a general over in Iraq? So I'm wondering, is Iraq, if they're using it over there? But with that said, what do you think was the real reason behind Princess Diana's death?
Let's see. The real reason behind Princess Diana's death. I think landmines has a lot to do with it, but I also feel that there's so much more on the table than that. I think that the Queen and her husband, Prince Philip, were distraught about the fact that she was possibly going to be marrying Dodi Fayed, that she was possibly pregnant with a child of Dodi. So mixing that in with the fact of the royalty and possible next king, Charles, or more likely William, to have a possible Muslim stepbrother. It's been said that just that alone it would be enough to take her out. But she was a very outspoken lady who clearly had made statements about the fact that people had tried to kill her in the past, people had tampered with her car, with her brakes, MI5, MI6, British Secret Service, French Secret Service. You can see it with Henry Paul, who was driving the car. Everything about what occurred on that day just does not add up. I mean, you can once again look at someone else or anybody else who's been assassinated. You can take a look at the security who was responsible for taking security measures out. You can see that. You can see that the cameras were shut off. Supposedly they were going to Dodi's house, but they drove right past the turnoffs to go into the tunnel. She was kept in the tunnel for a long period of time. I can't exactly quote how long it was, but I think it was about an hour. After that, the ambulance finally drove her to the 5th farthest away hospital. Like, all of these things just do not add up. to say the least. I mean, these are all conspiracy theories, so to say, and everyone's got different opinions of why they think that's why this has occurred. But we could say the landmine stuff was definitely a major aspect. But when you mix that in with everything else that's been added up, Dodi's father, Mohammed Fayed, is pretty outspoken about the fact that Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, was involved and that it was a royal cover-up. I would agree with that. At the same time, I'd also say that he owns the hotel and he was kind of responsible for some of the security measures to be taken out.
One thing I wanted to agree with you about is that this whole royal family aversion to Islam and bringing them in to dilute the so-called bloodline. That's very important because, the whole, the role of the Queen of England or the King of England is head of the Church of England.
For sure.
Their coronation oath says one of their titles is Defender of the Faith. Well, that was actually a title given to Henry VIII by the Pope for his work at suppressing the Reformation in England and burning John Wycliffe at the stake for William Tyndale at the stake for trying to translate the Bible in English. The Vatican is closely connected to the Church of England. It's really a wing of the Vatican. And the Vatican, of course, is probably behind. My theory has always been it was actually the Vatican that they got rid of her because of that dilute, the whole obsession about the bloodline and you saw, what's that movie? The Da Vinci Code? I mean, I think they're hitting on something there. And I think I think that's a big thing that needs to be explored more.
Yeah, the bloodline scenario for sure. I mean, the Queen sits at the top of the Order of the Garter. Her brother, the Duke of Kent, is at the top of English Freemasonry. The Vatican, I could talk forever on this subject matter, and I'm sure we will, because we're going to start discussing the 7 hills of Rome and the 7 heads of the beast and some things like that. But